What is up YouTube? I'm Got It 74 here, bringing you guys week 7 of APM's Fun League, or APM's Ubers League. This week we're taking on Hanch, coach of the Chicago Bulus. We are both going into this game with a 4-2 record. Now to recap what happened last week for you guys, we didn't win and we are now on a 2-game win streak, which is pretty awesome, but our hard schedule does continue as we face another really good team in Hanch. We are currently 1-1 against Hanch. Last time I played him, it was in Season 3 of APM, and I played really bad against him. Not gonna lie, one of my worst played games in a really long time was that game, and we did not deserve to win that game in any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully we play better this time. Also, before I get into any more of the video, I want to let you guys know that I currently just made a Discord, which is in the description below if you guys would like to join. Nothing much is going to happen until July, but hey, I'm still getting it set up and all that stuff, and it's going to be fun once we start doing things with it. But just want to plug that here. My opponent Hanch had originally had a Zekrom and a Lugia as their Ubers, but he actually dropped them and reworked the team a little bit. So his team is looking different than it once did, and he's still doing really good this season. His team has some similarities to my PBA team, so let's go ahead and look at it. Now looking at Hanch's team, his team consists of Xurkitree Electric, Zamazenta, Tapu Bulu with Z-moves, Mega Aggron, Suicune, Sylveon, Crobat, Rotom Heat, and Archeops like in Dynamax. Now expect my opponent to bring consists of Mega Aggron, Xurkitree Electric, Zamazenta, Crobat, Rotom Heat, and either Suicune or Sylveon. I say this because Suicune is generally a good Pokemon overall. It's not the greatest in this matchup, but can always come and do something because it's just really fat and annoying. So I could see my opponent bringing that. Or Sylveon if they decide to want to wish past this game. Sylveon itself is actually really bad in this matchup. It's worse than Bulu and Archeops, but wish passing is just so good for stuff like the Zamazenta, the Mega Aggron, is why I could see that coming. So that's what I expect my opponent to bring. My opponent has two Ubers. Let's talk about them as always. First off is Xurkitree Electric. While my team's not really that weak to Electric at all, in fact I resist it by a lot of Pokemon, the coverage moves on Arceus is very scary, and on top of that, 120 base stat total across the board is just really scary to deal with. What I expect is going to be an Ice Beam, Judgment, Giga Drain, and either Calm Mind or Recover set, depending on if they want to use Arceus late game or early game. I could see that being a thing. Substitute is also a little bit scary, but I'm not sure what my opponent would replace if they wanted Substitute on the set. And that's kind of what I'm expecting on the Arceus. The good thing about this is that Arceus can't really be physical because it gets no good electric physical moves unless it doesn't want to run a stab this week. And I'll be okay with that if it doesn't run that. And that's sort of the rundown of Arceus Electric. The other legendary is the brand new box art legendary in Zamazenta. This is not the crowned version, this is just normal Zamazenta. And I'm pretty excited to face this for the first time ever. The only thing I'm really expecting this thing to be is banded. Howls could be a thing, like Howl, Close Combat, Crunch, Wild Charge. But I'm more expecting banded than anything, because that thing hits really strong. And because of Dauntless Shield, it makes it really hard to revenge kill. And it's just a really big threat overall. I have to be really careful with switching into this thing, and trying to revenge it's really hard, just because of how fast it is. So those are my two Ubers for my opponent. The only other Pokemon that's really scary is the Mega Aggron. That thing is low-key a threat. As you guys know from PEBA, I've been loving that thing, and it's been putting in work each week. I do not have too much to kill this thing with, so I have to be really careful with what I'm using and keeping around for late game if Mega Aggron is still around. Plus, if Sylveon comes around and is wish passing, that could also be a big annoyance for my team. And offensively, Rotom Heat, while it's pretty good against my offense, I do have a Pokemon in Latios that can actually take full advantage of it. And that's where I'm going to transition into my plan this week. It's just to set up with Latios and win with support from Xurkitree and Scizor. So that's going to be the game plan. I'll talk about a little bit more when I break down the Pokemon. But that is my opponent's team this week. What I'm bringing to this game, it consists of Mega Scizor, Ho-Oh, Latios, Seismitoad, Xurkitree, and Clefable. To start off our team builder this week, we're going to talk about Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor is pretty bulky with some attack, moves being Sword Stance, U-Turn, Bullet Punch, and Roost this week. This is a pretty standard set and has some really good matchups, particularly Tapu Bulu, Sylveon, Crobat, and the Archeops. That's where Scizor's really good matchups. While it doesn't really match up well against the other mons on their team, the thing I like about this set is that I'm speed creeping a no-speed Suicune. So every time I Sword Stance, if Mega Aggron wants to be switched in or Suicune wants to come in, I can U-turn and do a lot of damage to Suicune, get some good chip on Mega Aggron, and even with the Sword Stance, a Bullet Punch is going to do a decent chunk to Zamazenta, assuming that it doesn't go for Fire Fang, which I'm not expecting Zamazenta to have, but it might. And then Rotom Heat is the only thing that really stops my Scizor, but if I keep U-turning on it consistently, it will get worn down pretty quickly. And that's kind of all I have to talk about the Scizor, really. The priority is really nice with Bullet Punch, and just being able to pivot is going to be really nice in this game. And just in case like that Sylveon does want to pass, I can at least turn and gain momentum in this matchup. So that is going to be Mega Scizor to start us off. Next up is going to be our mandatory Uber that we're bringing. It's Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is holding the Tims with Sacred Fire, Brave Bird, Toxic, and Sub as its moves. I'm not the biggest fan of this moveset, but it's really good against mons like the Sylveon on their team. Once again, the Tapu Bulu. This is why Sylveon has a really bad matchup, just because these two mons, first off, destroy Sylveon. So that's why I'm not really too scared of it. Sacred Fire isn't doing a crazy ton to aggron, but if I can burn it, then it's kind of useless at that point. It does decent damage to Arceus Electric, so it's not the greatest switch in. I can always take a Judgment, so if I really need to just kill it, I can tank the Judgment and then go for the Sacred Fire if it's low. Brave Bird for Zamazenta. Zamazenta's only coverage move for me is Wild Charge. It doesn't get a Rock move, which is really nice. And unless it's banded, I should be able to live it every single time. Toxic for non-res Suicune variants, and then, I can always tank A from Rotom Heat too. Plus, Brave Bird did like 35-ish% into a max HP Rotom, I think it was. And that was just an insane calc to see. So Ho has a really good matchup. It's a Ho-Oh, it's an Uber. Not the most important member on the team, but it's still, regen's going to be really nice on this type of squad this week. So that is Ho-Oh. Our next mon on the team is going to be the Wincon, is going to be our Latios. This is a pretty bulky Latios with enough speed to outspeed Rotom Heat. I'm holding the leftovers, and the moves are Calm Mind, Psyshock, Refresh, and Roost. My opponent has no Dark type, so mono attacking Psychic is fine here. This is what I like to call the George set, because he brought this set on a Mega Latios against me in Ocean League, and it put in a lot of work. So hopefully it will put in a lot of work for me on this Latios set. And I have a decent amount of physical bulk just so I can take physical hits a little bit better. The only mons that outspeed this are the Arceus and the Zamazenta, and Crobat too actually. But Crobat is not going to beat me down. The Arceus Electric, if I get up to a Calm Mind, I can beat that. And the biggest threat to this is actually the Zamazenta, even though it's a fighting type. What I expect to happen in this game is if my opponent does not want to lose a Pokemon to this thing at some point, then he's going to have to hard switch into Zamazenta and hope I don't click Psyshock, because in that case, then like a Banded Crunch, if I'm a little bit chipped down a bit, will kill me. So I do have to be careful about that. And I know I can't touch the Mega Aggron, but my job in this game is just to get rid of Mega Aggron, or at least chip it down to the point where I can get rid of it and kill it with Latios. Sorry, I'm getting these two confused. And yeah, that's the goal of this game, is to get rid of Mega Aggron so this thing can clean up late game. And that is just the basic set of it. Speaking of George and his set, the next spawn on this team is going to be Seismitoad. Seismitoad is a Spidef variant with leftovers. A pretty standard moveset of Rocks, Toxic, Liquidation, and Earthquake. I just need to get Rocks up. This is not the most important member of the team, but if my opponent's Arceus lacks a Grass move, then it walls the Arceus, which is really nice, and Earthquake will do a lot to it. This is my switch into Aggron, though realistically I can't really hit it just because of how fat Mega Aggron is, so I do have to be a little bit careful in that sense. And it's also my switch into Arceus, which again, I don't even see coming, but for the off chance that it does, then here's my switch into it right here. Also, if Suicune doesn't have Toxic for whatever reason, then Seismitoad also walls that. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I don't have too much else to say about this. It gets walled by a few things like the Tapu Bulu, the Sylveon I can't really touch, and stuff like that. But it's just here to get rocks and just be a general nuisance for my opponent. That is Seismitoad. Our next member of the team is Xurkitree. This is going to be our Choice Scarfer with Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, and Toxic. Toxic is for the Arceus Electric. Otherwise, I just click Volt Switch every single time. There's no way I'm going to click Thunderbolt with Arceus Electric running around, because I don't want to catch myself in clicking Thunderbolt against an Arceus Electric. That is going to be really scary. My opponent does not have a ground type, so that's why Volt Switch is very free in this game, and having just a Choice Scarf to at least have some offensive momentum on Zamazenta is pretty nice. I don't OHKO that thing, but being able to pivot on it is going to be really effective in this game, I believe. If Sylveon comes, then it's not going to be doing too much to it, but again, momentum is really important in this game. It beats the Suicune down. The Mega Aggron is my best offensive way to deal with that. And since I'm Scarf, I can also beat the Archeops. Not too much else to say about this. It's just I'm clicking Volt Switch every single time, I think, in this game. There's no way I'm clicking T-Bolt or Dazzling Gleam. But that is Xurkitree. And then finally, we have our pretty standard Clefable with Moonblast, Toxic, Wish, Protect. No teleport, but I do have leftovers. It's actually mixed bulk. These calcs were interesting. I have this defense so I can guaranteed not get 2-code by close combat. That's banded, I believe. That's what the defensive investment was. I know, Zamazenta was really strong. And the rest was inspa def just to take hits from Arceus Electric decently better. Also to take hits from other Pokemon on my opponent's team. But Wish Passing for me is actually really nice as well, just to heal up stuff like the Mega Scizor, the Latios if it needs it, even the Toad if it needs to be healed back up. And that's why I felt like Clefable was nice on this team. I almost had Cofagrigus in the slot with T-Spikes, but in the end I decided to go just a different route. While T-Spikes are nice, it's not the most crucial thing in the entire world in this game. And I just felt like Clefable's matchup was just slightly better. Just a little bit. I could have easily swapped it out. But that is the Clefable set, and that is the final Mon I am bringing on this team this week. Pretty excited to use these Mons. I really hope this Latios set puts in a lot of work, as well as the Mega Scizor. And that's really all I have to talk about. Let's head over to Pokemon Showdown, and we're going to go watch the battle. Alright, we've arrived at Pokemon Showdown. There's no Crobat on my screen, but my opponent did bring Suicune and Sylveon, so we'll keep that in the back of my mind. In regards to lead, I'm going to lead off with Xurkitree, because if anything minus Arceus leads, I'm going to Volt Switch out of there, and if Arceus leads, I look like Toxic. By the way, I apologize guys, this video is a little bit laggy near the end portion of it. Anyway, worst lead ever, because Arceus is the lead. I'm going to Toxic, and luckily I do land it, which is really nice, because this is going to force the Sylveon to Heal Bell later, if Sylveon is holding Heal Bell, and that's really nice. I also learned that this thing has Poison Jab, which is something I was not expecting, so all this information turn 1 is really helpful. I'm going to go hard out on the Seismitoad as they switch out into Zamazenta. It's a little bit of a problem. I'm going to go on the Clefable, see what this thing wants to do, find out if this thing is banded or not. And close combat is 51%. That is hella banded. So this is going to be a really big threat to my team throughout the battle here. This is a banded Zamazenta. I have to be careful with what button this thing is going to click. Turn 4, I'm already throwing up wishes just because I'm going to have to keep this healthy for Zamazenta later, as I'm just going to protect myself and wear down this Arceus a little bit. They do reveal Giga Drain, so now I know that Seismitoad is not the safest switch in ever. So I'm going to stay in and just Wish Protect constantly, as they're going to go on the Aggron here. It's sort of what I expected. I can't do much of this thing, as they're just going to die if they stayed in. I'm going to go on the Toad. I should have went on the Xurkitree, knowing I could live any hit and then Volt Switch to the following turn, but in this case I can trade rocks at least, as they get up their rocks, and now they're going to switch in the Rotom and I can get up my own rocks. And if they want to defog them away, I'm okay with this. Rocks are nice, but they're not the end of the world to have up. He hidden Power Grasses me, which is a little bit annoying. Threw me off guard a bit. I do get a Toxic on this as well, which is nice, so I need to get this chip damage on. Going on the Latios is my main switch into this thing, since this thing has hidden Power Grass, as they actually bust out Nasty Plot. That's a little bit scary, but not the end of the world, since this thing is on a timer and has leftovers. I'm going to Calm Mind here once, as they're going to go hard in the Sylveon. I did this just so if they were going to attack me with like Dark Pulse, I wouldn't take as much, and then I can Roost Spam until they die. That was my thought process. But Latios here is very important for the end game, so I'm not going to take a Hyper Voice yet. I'm just going to go into my Heavy Duty Butoh, as I take nothing from Hyper Voice. Sylveon itself has a really bad matchup this week, but Wish Passing is what's really scary about it. Here I'm going to go for Toxic, expecting either Suicune to come out or just Sylveon just to take a Toxic, as I miss. That kind of sucks. If this is a Rest variant, it's not the end of the world, but otherwise that could be really bad, as they actually predict my switch out and go for Ice Beam. And so that was a good play on Haunch's part. Here I'm just going to Roost to stay healthy, because once again, I need this thing healthy. This kind of sucks, because if I hit that Toxic, I could just spam Roost until they either A, rested, or B, switched out. So this is why this scenario is sort of not that great for me. As I'm going to switch out into Scizor just to kind of switch up the play here if they go for Ice Beam again, as they switch out into Mega Aggron. So this is not a good scenario for me, of course. I'm going to Mega Evolve and just use her out of here because I am faster. Just a little bit of chip is nice, I guess, even though it's just 9%. I'm going to go on to Toad just to tank whatever hit this thing wants to go for, as they're actually going to bust out the Curse, and that is very, very scary. I am a physical Toad, so Earthquake's going to not be doing much to this, and honestly, I have to sack something here, because I'm not going to switch in Xurkitree hard on this. You see Earthquake does 15%, that's amazing, and Mega Aggron's going to knock me out with Heavy Slam. Toad was not the most important member of the entire world, so I'm not really too upset about this. I'm going to go into Xurkitree. I'm actually going to Volt Switch here because I don't think Thunderbolt's going to kill. As you can see, Volt Switch does a lot of damage. Like, that's a lot. I'm going to go into Ho-Oh. I'm expecting them to have Fire Punch, as they actually have Rock Slide, and I die. This was a really, really bad play. To be fair, I thought they would be Spit Def, that's why I clicked Volt Switch, but Thunderbolt was 100% the better play there, because Arceus isn't as scary as it initially was. And if I was going to stack him on, it was going to be Scizor over Ho-Oh, because Ho-Oh does more in this game, so that was a really bad play for me. Luckily, Mega Aggron is down really low at this point, and it's not boosted anymore, and I can get some momentum going here, but still, that is just really not that good losing Ho-Oh, because the big thing about Ho-Oh, unlike Scizor, is that Ho-Oh prevents Sylveon from Wish Passing safely into Aggron, while Scizor can't really do that. So that's something I really have to be wary about. And now Sylveon's in, and I only have one way to deal with Aggron at this point, and it's Xurkitree, so I have to be really careful of that. Excuse me. They're going to Baton Pass out, which is even scarier to know that they have that, and they go out into the Zamazenta. I have Clefable sitting in the back at pretty full health, so I'm fine with just switching into this thing. If they click Iron Head, it's going to be annoying, but not the end of the world. They just goes for close combat, not a big deal. I can just wish up again. And that's just kind of the game we're going to have to play here. As they're going to go out into the Sylveon, as I'm going to throw up a wish. And I'm thinking, I'm going to try, I don't think they're going to attack me because I can protect. They can might throw up a wish themselves. I'm going to go on the Xurkitree to prevent them from throwing a wish up into the Aggron, hopefully. As they just click Hyper Voice and I die. At this point, it's not looking good at all. I have no way to deal with this Aggron if it gets a wish. And that's all that's going through my mind at this point in the battle, is that if that thing wishes, this game is over because I have nothing for it. So they're going to switch their thing out. I'm going to Swords Dance just so I can get some fat damage off the following turn, as they're going to go in the Suicune. I have enough speed to outspeed a no-speed one, as they have no speed in their Suicune. They're actually Rocky Helmet, so that's good information to know. My Latios can still beat this 1v1, so I'm not too scared of it, as they just go for Scald. Not that big of a deal here. As I actually forget what I go for this turn, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think I go for Calm Mind, as they go on the Sylveon. And at this point, after I get a Calm Mind up, which is what I do end up doing, I decided that I can't let the Sylveon get free turns. Like, I need this thing gone ASAP to give me any chance in this game. So I'm going to Side Shock. It does a lot of damage to this, like a lot. And Hyper Voice does 50 to me. That's also a lot of damage since I'm at +1. But I do know that another Side Shock will kill this. I'm going to Roost up once just so I can get a little bit more health, because Hyper Voice is doing roughly 50 and it's doing a little bit less here. So we will be gaining a little bit of health in the process. And now this turn I'm going to click Side Shock, and luckily, guys, he gives me this Sylveon. And all of a sudden things are looking a little bit better here. Zamazenta is still in the back chilling, so I'm definitely not out of the woods. But with Sylveon gone, my chances of winning this game are a lot better, just because Mega Aggron is going to be staying at 10%. I'm going to make a Scizor and just sack it off to whatever move this thing clicks. I didn't want to switch Clefable hard into an Iron Head, so that's why I made this play. As Scizor goes down, and all I have is Clef and Latios in the bag. It's not that great, but Latios can beat a decent amount of Pokemon on their team, so it's not the worst in the world. I'm going to Moonblast as they actually go into Arceus, which is really good for me. Chip on this is even better. I'm going to Wish Protect stall this thing out a bit, just because I need my Clefable healthy for that Zamazenta, and chipping this down with Toxic Poison is going to be really nice. So they're going to live the next turn, as they're going to Poison Jab me, but my Wish is going to come down, and yeah, I'm going to Wish Protect and all. And the good thing about this scenario is that he's going to switch on the Suicune. That Arceus is dead on rocks, unless that Rotom has Defog on it. Then Arceus is dead to rocks. Aggron has 10%. The Suicune has Rest, as you see here, so this thing's going to be a little bit annoying. But Latios beats every member of the team minus Zamazenta, and Zamazenta cannot really hardly switch into this thing. So all of a sudden, again, it's looking really good after a really bad start. It's not that bad here. You're going to see this following turn, he's actually going to hard switch into Zamazenta, as I go for a Calm Mind on the Suicune. I personally believe he does need to make this play if he doesn't want to keep losing Mons, because the way this process would work is that I Calm Mind, I get a kill, Zamazenta comes in, Clefable comes in to take the hit, and then Wish passing all over again. He's going to need to do this every time if he wants to deal with this Latios, unless he wants to lose a Pokemon. So the cycle is actually not that bad for me. The thing that's scary is that if he has Iron Head, all he has to do is click it once, and I'm basically gone. And that's going to go hard on the Latios on the Suicune, as they're going to have Rest Talk and Scald me. And this Scald is going to burn me. Burn's not bad because I don't want to be frozen, but the bad thing is that I guarantee live a Banded Adamant Crunch from a Zamazenta at full, but with the burn, it's a roll. And after the roll, even with the burn, I probably die. So that is kind of a problem. But as long as this thing doesn't make predictions, I should be okay. I'm going to Calm Mind here a little bit more as I just spam out this Ice Beam. I want to be out of a range of a crit, so I'm going to Roost up consistently here. So that's what I do. I'm going to Roost. This next turn I am going to Side Shock just to get some chip on the Suicune. As luckily you're going to see here that he actually switches hard in his Zamazenta like he did earlier. And because he did this and I click Side Shock this turn, he is down to 9%. And that is really big because Zamazenta can only come in one more time on rocks unless that Rotom has Defog. So this is really good as luckily he does not click Iron Head here. I almost stayed in predicting him to click Iron Head on the Latios, but he did not. So I made the good play as now Zamazenta switches out. And all I have to do is keep this thing a little bit healthier and I should be okay. As I'm going to Wish Protect as I have been doing. I actually Toxic instead of Protect because, you know, whatever. As this is going to force the Suicune to rest again. And that's going to be really nice as Suicune is forced to rest here. And I'm going to throw up a Wish and just pass it off in the Latios. He does predict that and goes into Zamazenta, but it's fine. At this point, Zamazenta cannot lock into one move to knock us both out. And that is really awesome here. As I'm going to make the one final switch into Clefable. Even if he predicts at this point, it doesn't matter. He goes for Fire Fang and misses. That kind of sucks, but it only does 36%, you see. At this point, he definitely doesn't have Iron Head. He probably has Close Combat, Crunch, Fire Fang, and Wild Charge. So because of that, that's going to help me out a ton. And at this point, the game's over. Because this Aggron is not Spadef, as we saw from the Volt Switch earlier, Moonblast will definitely kill it here. And all I have to do is get Latios in for free and not choke with it. Like, don't recklessly play with it or lose my Side Shocks to pressure. So that's my thought at this point. This last portion is going to be a little bit slower, but I know I have this game on lockdown. I'm going to Wish past in the Latios just to be a little bit safer. As he's going to rest, talk, and get Ice Beam. And yeah, once again, as I keep saying, it's going to speed up a little bit here. As all I have to do is Calm Mind on the Suicune. The Arceus is dead to rocks, so it cannot beat me down that way either. And I beat the Rotom and Suicune. So, like I said in prep, I was really hoping my Quack, my Latios would put in a bunch of work this game, and it definitely is doing a lot, as it took out the Sylveon. You're going to see here in this endgame, it did a lot to Zamazenta. It's going to beat down the Suicune in a bit, the Rotom Heat, and I'm really happy with how the set worked out. Just, again, making sure I stay out of range of a crit, because a crit does around like 55-ish to 60%, so I'm trying to stay out of that range. As I'm just going to Calm Mind one more time, and they're going to Ice Beam. I believe I do click Roost, or one more time. I think I click Roost this turn, just to say, yeah. I clicked Roost, and the next turn I'm going to click Side Shock, because he just rests. This game's basically over. There's nothing my opponent can really do, unless that Rotom... Actually, no, there's nothing my opponent can do here. I had to click the wrong buttons, as because I'm burnt, I can't get frozen again, and it's looking pretty good. So, spoiler alert, guys, we are going to win this game with the Latios cleaning up in a pretty fashionable style. We're going to win 2-0 after a really rough start, and honestly, after Ho went down, I really thought I had lost the game. But look, I stayed in it, I kept my head in it, and it's going to work out in the end. And again, we're going to win 2-0. So, Rotom Heat's going to go down here, and that is it. So, GG to my opponent, Honch. I'm not exactly sure what the Sylveon set was on Honch's team. I know it doesn't have Heal Bell, but I wasn't sure what the rest of the set was. But it was very scary going up against that for a solid like 20 turns right there. As I said earlier, I shouldn't have sacked the Ho-Oh instead of should have sacked the Scizor because Ho-Oh was doing a lot more in this game than Scizor was. Luckily, I did what I needed to do to come out and win the game, and it's almost into not having Iron Head was just something that really helped out this game plan in the end, because I personally think I would have lost if it did. But one more time, again, GG to Honch, thank you for the battle. We are going to move up to a 5-2 record, which is in a pretty comfortable spot for playoffs. There's only 2 teams not in playoffs that are currently in the running still. And one of them has really bad diff, so I don't think we're going to get knocked out by them. So we really only have to figure one more person left, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. This battle that we had today kind of reminded me of my Ocean League game against Jed, you know, my favorite battle of all time. And that's pretty ironic, because next week we actually do face Jed, the commissioner of the league. You know who Jed is, I don't need to explain. He has a Mega Mewtwo X, which is just stupid broken, and he snipes my ass. I got Naganadel too. Very annoying, but we have to go up against it. Hopefully we can smack up Jed again like we usually do, and that will be next week's battle. So thank you for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you enjoy Pokemon Jeff League content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm gonna head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.